to A Well-Designed Business. My name is LuAnn Nigara, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company Window Works from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. It's Power Talk Friday. By now, we know that we are all supposed to find our thing, our Fred Burns only, our Rachel Bozick goldmine, our unique selling proposition, our superpower. I think we're all on board with that. I don't think any of you or me are sitting here thinking and saying, nah, I don't need that. I don't need anything to set my business apart, right? But more likely, maybe you're stuck on the how. And it's like that with many of our best business practices, right? I bring on an expert, they tell you something, likely the same thing that other experts have said in different ways, and you take all the advice and you know that it's the best thing to do, but sometimes putting into action is hard. And this superpower thing, the niche, the only, the gold mine, it seems to be one of the hardest things for business owners to figure out how to do. My guest today, Renee Bush, she has found her superpower, helping interior designers find their superpower. Yes, and she believes that uncovering your superpower is about more than just finding what you do well. It's finding what you want to do well, what you want to be known for, and what will bring a spark of passion back into your business. Renee is the founder of Tandem, an agency specializing in strategy and design for interior designers. Renee has worked with dozens of interior design entrepreneurs to strategize, problem solve, and refine their brands and business operations. Some of her clients include Chloe at Boxwood Avenue, High Street Homes, Light and Dwell Interiors, Susanna Holmberg Interiors, and more. With her experience in the design world and a master's in business administration, Renee excels at getting straight to the heart of any issue and always has a creative solution up her sleeve. Before we hear Renee's insights on reigniting that spark in your business, let's take a minute to thank our show sponsor, Kravit. Have you heard that the majority of Kravit Inc. products are in stock and ready to ship within days? Order your favorite patterns from Kravit's exclusive in-stock collections as well as from their Modern Luxe line. Keep your design projects on track and on time with Kravit Inc. You can go and get your account set up today at Kravit.com. And don't forget that you can still use your code for any one purchase of Kravit wallpaper, fabric, or trim at checkout. Put in the code AWDB10. Okay, let's meet Renee. Hi, Renee. Thanks so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business today.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, Renee, I have to tell you, I was excited when I read your intake form. I was like, this is going to be cool. But now that we've spent a few minutes chatting off air, I'm even more excited to pick apart your business and what you do as a superpower, because I know a lot of us need this. So here's the thing. I'm going to recap for our friends what I understand your superpower to be. And then you're going to clarify and add to it. And then we're going to pick apart how you do this. Okay. So cool. In my understanding, at first, when I read about you, I thought that what you did is like Stacey Davidson. She is everything but the design. She actually comes in and she does the back end operations of the design end of a business, right? And like does the onboarding and does all of that stuff. And that's what I thought that you did for designers, because I learned that that's what you did for Shay McGee. So I was like, so she does that for others. But what I think I understand is that you have evolved And with your years of experience in the industry, rather than coming in and set up a designer's back end operations like you did for the McGee's, and run that, you were the director of the operations there. What you do now is you help designers, and I'm assuming other creative business owners, look at what they might feel like something's wrong in their business, but they can't pinpoint what it is. And you, in either a 60-minute or a 4-hour strategy session, whichever one they opt to do, you help them get clarity on, this is why your pipeline isn't full, or this is why your team is not playing good in the sandbox, or this is why you can't get published in a magazine. Am I correct on this now? Am I understanding your superpower?
Yeah, I think that's a really good way of putting it. What I think we do really well is solve problems, like really get in to all of the different areas of the business and look at how all those things are working together, and then try to help diagnose what might be going wrong, and then also help put together a plan to solve that. So for every business owner, that's going to obviously be very different, because everyone's trying to build a different client with a different superpower for a different, business. Everything is very different for everybody. So really trying to get in, understand all of those pieces so we can put together a plan that will actually work, like that someone will follow through with, because it's custom to them.
Well, and that's key, what you said, a plan that someone will actually follow through. Because if you give me the solution and I don't like it, I'm not going to do
Mhm.
it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? It's like, you give me this routine at the gym and it all involves free weights and I'm never going to do free weights. Well, then great. I could get in shape, but I'm never going to do it. Right?
I love that analogy. Yeah, because I do think like with the gym, for example, you have to find something that's going to work for you because you're excited to do it, or you like doing it, or you feel good after you do it. There has to be something like that there. And I think it's the same with business. You have to find something, a plan that like works with the way you work. And
Mm.
that's different for everybody.
Right, right. And so when designers come to you, like what are the sentences? What are, Renee, this is my problem. Rattle off 2, 3, 4, 5 things that come to mind that a designer says, this is my problem. And then you go to work with your researching and your Q&A with them, and you come back to the session with some solutions. What are the things that they say?
I think they say, um, I don't really know what to do next. Like I've been, whether their business is working or not really working, they're like, I can't really see a path forward. I don't really know what's next for me. Typically, I see that when people have achieved all of the goals they set out to achieve, right? Like
Mm,
maybe they were thinking small when they first started, and now they've hit all those goals and they're like, I don't really know. I did everything I didn't even know I could do. Now what? So that's like one really good indicator that like a strategy session would be beneficial. Also, really new designers that are like, I have no clue what I should be pricing. Like, I have no idea. Like, I know the process, but like, am I doing it right? Is this the best way? Am I missing anything? Could I be doing this in a better way? So I think that is definitely something. Or if it's like, maybe you're not attracting the right clients, like your business is like humming along
mm,
fine, but you're just like, I'm not excited. The inquiries that come in are like fine. Like that kind of thing where you're like, yeah, I mean, I can't complain, but you've lost a little bit of that like spark. And like,
mm.
how do we get that back? How do we attract a project and a client? Because those two things are two different things that we need both of. How do we attract that to get us kind of excited about what we're doing again? Those
Okay,
are just
so
a
I,
few different examples.
I love these examples. So when we take the example of the what's next
Hmm.
example. So what I'm feeling and hearing when you're describing that is somebody that could be in business 10 years, 20, 25 years even.
Yeah.
And to your point, they've been successful. They're probably a somewhat biggish fish in a littleish, pond, right? Or they could
Hmm.
even be a big, big fish in a big pond. But, we all know that $3, $5 million design firm that is ensconced. The community that they do business in knows them. They're the go-to. But I, have conversations with designers at that level, and they're just like, what do I do? Like you said, what do I do next? Like, do I go into licensing? Do I open up an e-com shop?
Mhm.
Do like, and also too, interesting, I wonder if you find this. I also find that usually, the seasoned designer that's in that stage of their career is a lot of times, not always, but a lot of times also saying, and if the what's next could not include me working directly with the consumer.
Yeah, like I'm doing enough, for sure. I think that I've talked to so many designers that get in that place and they're looking around at everybody else going, should I open a shop? Should I
Yes.
do, should I, what does passive income, is that real? What do
Yes.
I do with that? Um, and I feel like it's just, they don't even know what decision to make. It's like there's all these options and they're like, what thing should I pour my energy into? I don't even know what the best thing is for me. And that's where I think, taking a moment in the strategy session to sit down with someone who understands the industry and can help you look inward, right? Can stop looking out at what everybody else is doing. Like that's all great
Mm.
information. I love to know that information and then stop and look inward with that context and say, what am I best at? Now, how can I take that and package that up in a way that works for me? Like
Right.
if we start to say, okay, I'm burnt out and I wanna work less hours. That's my goal. And then we start to look at like, okay, and one thing I'm really, really good at is I'm trying to think of something like even like a signature aesthetic. You have like a signature aesthetic, right? Like
Mhm.
that's one superpower. There's a lot of different ones we can lean into. That's where like maybe partnering with a brand to create products in that signature aesthetic starts to make more sense because that is going to achieve my goal and also align with my superpower. If you're a designer who matches the client's style and that's what you're really, really good at, you're really good at coming in and listening and anticipating what they want and helping them interpret, their personal style into their home. That's an incredible superpower. That's not going to be as well suited to partnering with a brand on like creating a product line, right? Like
Right.
that's going to be more well suited to maybe doing like consultations, design for a day, helping a client get a vision for their home. That's going to be more like maybe even working with other designers and helping them know how to be more empathetic in their design process or speaking
Mm.
engagements or, you know, again, limitless opportunities here, but it comes down to what are you really good at? What excites you and makes you feel passionate? Because that's what, and I can kind of get into this more, but that's where we can really grow our business, you know?
Nice. Nice.
Yeah. So putting all of that stuff together to see like, what are my steps forward?
I love all that. Because the truth is, when you are sticking with this analogy of the more seasoned designer, that's like what's next. Um,
Mhm.
Often, based on what my conversations have been, and based on what you said in there, I heard two things in my head. One is often that designer is capable of multiple next steps, right? They could do an e-com site. They could do,
Mhm.
whatever it is, right? But and so that becomes part of like the tiger, hanging onto the tail. It's like just because I'm good at it doesn't mean I should do it, and it's running all
Yes.
around in circles. But the other thing I heard in there was, you know, the very practical advice of if you have a signature style, that's possibly a candidate for working with brands. But absent a signature style, well, then you can say that as an idea, like, what's next? Maybe I should license. But if you don't have that, maybe you didn't even like to me, that was like oh, right. If you don't have that, you're not even a candidate there, really.
Potentially. I mean,
Right. I mean, nothing is never and
yeah, yeah,
always,
yeah.
but a lot harder
Mhm.
to convince a brand to come in and do something that you're not actually known for, right?
Exactly. And I
Like,
I love that what you're known for because that is exactly what we're trying to create for people is like how do we drill down to what you want to be known for? Are you known for what you want to be known for? That might be something we need to shift, right? Like you
mm,
might be known for X, but you want to be known for Y. That's an opportunity for us to start to like maybe make a lateral move with our brand, right? And then open up new possibilities. That's all a strategic move, and very well can be done. maybe you've painted yourself into a corner with what the
Mm.
business you've built, and you are like, I don't want to keep doing more down this path. Okay, well, let's create a new path by seeing what other resources we have. What else have we learned? What else do we want to be known for? And then how do we establish that with like new opportunities?
I
So,
love it.
so many different ways we can take it.
I love it. And I'm going to ask you some nitty gritty questions about the process in a moment. But I'm curious for the designer that, like you said, there's no spark. It's like it all works, it's
Mhm.
happening. It's not so much the what's next question, because maybe I know I've had many conversations with designers where literally they are at a point in their career and there is some dollar bills in the checkbook and they can make some investments if they want, and it is that
Mhm.
should I approach licensing, should I do e-com, should I do blah blah blah, should I do speaking, should I do TV, blah blah blah. But that's a very different position of somebody who has just lost their mojo, right? That
Mhm.
is just like, okay, I literally am not independently wealthy and I do have to continue to do this.
Yeah.
And rather than,
Unfortunately.
yeah, like just pitch it and start
Yeah.
all over and be a lawyer, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And how do you that's very curious to me. That feels more like therapy than business strategy,
Oh my gosh.
Renee.
That's so funny. I actually have people joke with me all the time. They're like, this is kind of like business therapy. I'm like, it is kind of.
Yeah.
I think, this dovetails in a little bit with like why I started this business in the beginning. Like, I was very, very fascinated when I started working in design, like, years ago. I was very fascinated about how, because I want to be successful. If there's a game, I want to win it. I love points. I like money. I want to like do good, right? And I want to help other people do good. And I was fascinated by how in creative businesses, the way that you win, the way you be profitable, the way you be successful is not the same with other businesses. No, there's this elusive quality of creativity that
Mm,
that has to be factored in.
mm,
Um, and what that means is like, with data entry or production lines, it's efficiency, efficiency. How do we can force more, which makes us more money. With creativity, it's very different. We need more inspiration and we need more spark to be more creative. You can have 10 designers and you can add more and more designers, but if they're unhappy, uninspired, there's no space, there's no security, they don't have the things that they need to be creative, your business will run, but it's not going to be as it's not going to thrive.
it's not going to be
And
everything
so
it could be.
exactly. And so I think it's the same for like as designers, as a creative person, the way that you make a successful business, a profitable, efficient business is actually inviting inspiration. How do we get
Mm,
the more inspiration we have, the more we fill the well, the more product we have to sell. And it's not like that with every other thing. You can't just make more of it, right? Like I've used this, I think I've done like an Instagram post about this, but like you can sit down for 8 hours to solve a problem and you can work really, really hard. You can force yourself to sit there and keep working, 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 and you just can't solve it. And then the next day, you wake up late, you take a long shower, you go on a drive and get an iced coffee, and you think of the answer.
that's it.
It's not the same as like other types of business. And so inspiration, creativity is a key part of running a profitable business. And we have to look at that as like a concrete factor
Mm,
to like making the business run profitably. And if we want to create an efficient business, that's where that ideal client is really a huge part of that too, right? Like when we have the right client who is excited to follow our process because they see our value, profitability, right? Like they
right.
go through the process the way we ask because they get it. So those are just, a few things that can exponentially increase the success of your business, that I don't think a lot of other business industries consider in the same way that like creative businesses really need to consider.
Mm. And so when someone has lost their spark and you're
Mhm.
encouraging them either as an individual and a solopreneur or someone who's leading a team of designers, to your point, is it like start taking trips to museums and look for the unusual things? Like, what are
I
you
mean, maybe no,
talking
that's
about here?
honestly, it comes from I ask like one question. I'll say, "What about your job gets you really excited? What makes you feel passionate? What is the day that you look forward to?" And for
Mm,
some people, I hear site visits or I love seeing it all come together, or I love working with the client. I just love when we go shopping together and
Mm.
we just find that perfect slab and we just like, the flow is happening. Um, the next designer is like, oh my gosh, shopping with a client. Oh my gosh, please no. Like
Right, right.
that person is like, when I can sit down at my computer and I can like really pull together different pieces and I can see it coming together. Or maybe it's at, looking at different pulling textiles and touching and feeling the textures and the patterns. I talked to a designer just the other day who's like, it's the hard finishes, it's the metals and the tiles, and everyone gets like really jazzed. And I use that word because I really feel like it's like they start to sparkle about something. And I want to ask enough questions to figure out like, what's that thing that gets you really excited? Because we just need to get more of that for you.
Okay.
And we need, like, when we think about our team, a lot of times I see business owners giving away the stuff they love because they want to
Mm.
be nice. They want to be a good boss. And they're like,
Mm.
oh, I love doing this part. So I'm going to hire more people like me and let them do the part I love because I'm nice. And instead, it's like, how do we hold on to that piece and
Yeah.
don't let go of the piece that makes you shine? That's your superpower that you love to do. We want to be putting you in that zone of genius as
Mm.
much as possible. And that's when, you know, we get more. It's like we're filling the well, yes, with going to museums or going on trips or having time with our family. But when we come to work every day and we get to do the thing that just
Mm.
makes us really excited, which is different for every single designer, I can promise. That's where we start to get that spark back. So most of the
Interesting.
time it's left because maybe we started choosing projects that were secure over, or like safe over projects that were interesting. Maybe
Mm.
it's we started working with clients that were easy over clients that we actually love, people we really like meeting. It's different for every
Yes.
person, but we
Yes.
have to figure that out together. And that's like what that strategy session is like.
Mm.
Let's figure this out together. Like what's missing? What do we need to bring back in? And then how do we do it?
Wow. Okay. And so obviously somebody that does a 90-minute strategy session versus the 4-hour strategy session, we have to have much different expectations, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
we're coming away with some concrete like step 1, 2, 3 though,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, I would say for a 90-minute, I like to tell people it's like 1 to 2 issues, and we're really focused on like a facet of your business. So when I'm looking
Mhm.
at a business, I'm looking at your brand strategy, your brand messaging, which is going to be like, how do we talk about ourselves, our actual brand, and I'm looking at all these different facets, and then trying, in an intensive, I'm looking at everything holistically and trying to like, see where there's any misalignment. With a session, I'm going to dive more into like one area that you're saying, don't worry about all of that. I want you here with me focused on this piece, which could be just your pricing. I'm going to still
Okay.
ask questions about everything else,
Sure.
but
Because you
I'm
need to
just going to
understand
stay focused on like,
the one
let's
area.
talk about your pricing and maybe your services. Like, what is the offerings and how do we make sure that matches the ideal client and our superpower? So again, still digging into those things, but just really
Mhm.
staying focused on like, what do we do about these specific
Right.
areas?
I love it. I think it's terrific. And so I know that you have worked with many of the people that I've interviewed.
Yeah, a few,
You've
yeah.
worked with obviously Shay and Sid. You've worked with Amy and Molly at Light and Dwell. You've
Mhm,
worked with Chloe at Boxwood.
mhm.
And so talk to us a little bit about, look, we can't even say Shay without asking about it. Come on, that everybody
Yeah.
would be like, how could you not ask us about Shay?
Yeah, she's
So
amazing.
yeah, so just tell us a little bit about like what your day, like you worked as their
Mhm,
director of design operations. So
mhm.
it's different than what you're doing now as a business owner, right? Um
Totally.
totally. But they're going to want to know, so we're going to give them 5 minutes on working with Shay and Sid.
Yeah.
So
I mean, honestly, Sid and Shay are some of the best people I've worked with, and I just think they are so open to opportunity and ideas, and I could always bring things and they were like, if you feel like we trust you, if you feel like this is the right thing, like, let's do it. If it doesn't work, we'll pivot, right? Look, we'll figure it out. Definitely room for just experimentation and learning, which I think is so valuable in a creative team.
Mm.
A lot of what I did there was um, help refine processes, which they had a lot of this stuff worked out. It was really just like aligning it, tightening it, documenting it. I learned so much about interior design, at this time. So that has helped me a ton, like as I've moved forward into what I do now. But I managed the different designers, so I got to hear a lot about what the designers, specifically the people in the seat managing every detail, what they struggle with, what they need support with, the vendors and how we set up our vendor systems, all of the software, the back end of things. I did all of the client onboarding. So, that was a really amazing opportunity for me to talk to potential clients. And, when you work for a place like Studio McGee, uh, there's no limit to the inquiries, which is such a privilege. I mean, to be able to work there where we didn't have to worry as much about that was such an incredible thing that they have built that has attracted so many people. But being able to like really talk to these potential clients of like, what do they care about? What do they want in a designer? Why are they reaching out to Studio McGee? And, really understanding how to sell somebody on services. That's something that I really help a lot of my clients with as well, is like,
Mm.
what information do we need from a discovery call to know if this is the right fit?
Mm.
So there's a lot of pieces working there that I have just like, I learned so much, has helped me a ton. And also, like, I really would say while working there, I took care of all of the things that were not design. It's almost like
Right.
we drew a little box around the design process, and, Shay and her designers owned that. Like, they
Yes.
managed their projects, they dealt with all of the clients. And where I would come in is like big picture stuff, process stuff. And, anytime there was something wrong, that was a like, Renee, which I'm weirdly good at handling like those types of client issues. Like, I kind of secretly love when clients have a problem and we have to work through it. It's like a weird thing. I
It's
kind
a
of love it.
challenge.
I
It's
love it.
a
Yeah.
Yeah, it's why I became the CCO at WindowWorks, the chief complaint officer.
Yeah, exactly. It's like there's something about being able to like find a solution that works for everybody that is like a great training ground.
Yes, I love that too. You know what it is, because it's funny because you said earlier that, give me the points, let me, prove my, worth, and let,
Hmm.
whatever words you use, right? But that
Yeah.
is the same thing. When you have an unhappy situation, whatever it is, if you can come in and hear literally what everybody needs from it and craft that win-win, that is like, standing ovations all day long, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly what I think so much of this is. And I think, a lot of times when I'm meeting with a designer, and sometimes I can feel a little bit of like even disappointment that they can't see the problem themselves. This
Mm.
like, I should be able to solve this. And I'm like, but it's like looking at your own face. It's like criticizing your own child. Like, you just don't have the same view that an outside person will. I mean, I have a business coach. You need to have somebody that isn't as emotionally connected, but understands what you do and what you're trying to do to help you see it in more of an objective way. So, yeah, I don't know. I think that that's really important.
I love it. I love it. So now talk to me about with your work with Chloe from Boxwood and
Mhm.
Amy and Molly at Light and Dwell. That was in this capacity with what you do now.
Yeah, I mean, working with Light and Dwell, Amy and Molly are so awesome. That was actually one of the first clients that I started working with as Tandem, which has been so wonderful to see like the growth that they've had and kind of how their business has shifted over the last couple years. And I actually really started working with them because I was like, oh, I can help you with some of your processes, which I still do. But I started really with that in mind, like, oh, let me help you with some of your pricing, your processes. I can consult with you. And what started happening was like, we would get to where it was like, we need to make a decision, like, should we do this or should we do that? And I kept coming back to like, well, I guess we need to understand who your ideal client is. Well, in order to make that decision, I guess we need to understand like what kind of business you're trying to build, like what's your goals. Well, in
Mm,
order to make this decision about what software system or, whatever the problem is, it's like we need to understand all these things about your business. And so I started figuring out that like we need to solve all of this first and create a North Star that then we can use to make decisions. And so
mm,
that really set me on a path of like helping designers figure out their North Star. Who
mm,
am I? What do I want? Why do I do what I do? How do I do it? What's my superpower? Who am I trying to work with? Like all these key things that then become that, business North Star, business framework that then we use um, to make decisions. So you're not just constantly making emotional decisions and doing
mm,
like, well, I think this is right. I think this is right. Instead, it's like you hold up this North Star and say, does it align with this? Does it align with this? How so? And let that help make decisions. So with them, when I first started working with them, when I, what I heard from them when I was talking was that they really wanted to be a luxury brand. But then there were things about their brand that I was like, I feel like this might be coming across a little bit more accessible or a little bit more approachable, right? Than maybe you
mhm,
want to be perceived.
mm,
And so just by isolating that and them starting to curate their brand so they could turn it, into something that would be perceived the way they want to be perceived, right? Like they have full control over the things that they can change to try to be perceived the way they want. By making those adjustments, they began to be more perceived the way they want, which is actually in alignment with their superpower, you know?
mm.
Um, and from there, it just grows. And
Nice.
yeah, I think that, that is really the goal is like, we want to be perceived this way. We want these types of opportunities. Maybe there's something out there in our brand, in our messaging, the way our website is, the way our pictures, our photos are shot, the way we talk about things, the way we've structured our services, our pricing. If that is not aligned, people are going to like move on to something else, or they're going to
Mm,
hire you because they think you're one thing, even though you want to be something different. And
mm,
that's where we start running into like, this client is so difficult to work with. And it's like, well, that's because they thought this thing about you, when in actuality, what you do best is this thing over here.
right.
And if we had maybe put that out into the world more strongly and attracted someone who wanted that, they would be a lot easier client.
So that's the crux of it right there is having that conversation either with ourselves and getting real or facilitated by someone
Mhm.
with your superpowers and hiring you to do it with us is to have the what is it that I am? Like you said, who am I? What do I do? Who do I do it for? And what makes me the happiest when I'm doing XYZ,
Yeah.
right? Because I think a lot of times we do just get up and go to work, right? We just
Mhm.
get up and do design or do window
Yeah.
treatments
If
or
we're
do
lucky. Yeah.
podcasting, right? Like we just get up and do
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
right? And so the thing is, when you start to work with somebody, so there's, thousands of designers that are listening that are never going to, take the next step and hire you, right?
Mhm.
So, what are some of the things that you would share as advice for listeners to start to what are some of the things that you would say? Are there questions they should ask
Mhm.
themselves? Or like what's a little tiny little roadmap that we could get our brains clicking?
Yes. Okay, so I like to, again, for everyone, it's very different. I like to try to drill down into like three things that for each designer, try to help them understand their brand pillars or their three things that they can become known for. I do it in like first, second, third. So this is the main thing we want to be known for, the second thing we want to be known for, and the third thing. And typically, that first thing is potentially your aesthetic, your signature look. How do we describe that? How do we help people know what they're buying when they work with us? But like maybe it's your aesthetic and kind of what you offer. And then maybe next is like your superpower, your differentiator. So like, let's say your first thing, your aesthetic is like an eclectic coastal look, and then you describe what that means for you, that like, it's these types of materials, it's this type of color. It's how do you describe that in a way that your client who doesn't understand design at all is going to understand, right? How do we really make that clear? And then next would be, let me say that again. And next would be your differentiator, like your superpower, that that thing that you do really, really well, which, for a client I met with last week, she was saying, I really want to just focus on furnishings. Like, I know that's not everybody, but that's what I really like doing. I want to just do more and more projects that are furnishings. And then another client I worked with in the last couple weeks, she was like, I love remodels. I love the problem solving. I want, to get the worst house on the best block and turn it into something that is incredible. Right. And so it's like, for her, that was like, that's her superpower. And everybody should know that. And I want people coming to her saying, hey, I heard you do this and you're really good at it. And like, here's kind of how your designs look, and here's what you're really good at. And then lastly would be something that is an intangible, which is kind of vague. So I'll try to be specific. But, Simon Sinek has that quote that's like, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. Right. Or, people buy for aspirational reasons. Everyone who's buying interior design is buying it for a reason, because it will improve their life. We need to understand with each of our ideal clients, why are they doing it? What's the why behind this purchase? For some people, they want a showpiece, right? They want all the best brands. They want it to be expensive. They want to show off that they have this incredible house, that they've made it, that they're successful, and that they have this beautiful place. For someone else, it's, I want to have a home that makes me feel calm and makes me feel organized. I want to reduce stress. I don't want to manage this project on my own. I want someone who's going to really help me take care of everything. For another type of client, they're sitting there thinking, I want a home that just feels like it represents me. I want a space that feels like a retreat for me, where it's my favorite artists on the walls. And when I come in here, I feel like it's this beautiful representation of, who I am and who my family is. So I think when we can really try to understand, like, what is an emotion, or like a shared value that you have with your ideal client, that you can really help sell them on. So, for an example, I have a client who, she was having some issues with like how to position her business. And she's an interior designer, and she uses a wheelchair. So she does a lot with like barrier-free, inclusive design. And she was struggling with like, well, which of these am I first? Right? Like, do I do barrier-free design and then this is my aesthetic, or do I have this aesthetic and I also do barrier-free, inclusive design? And so we had a whole conversation, because she could do either one, right? Like, there's no right answer here. It comes down to like, what does she want? And at the end of the day, after really talking through it, we want to be known for our aesthetic. She wants to be known for the design that she does. She's always going to bring inclusive design to everything she does, because that's a part of who she is, and it makes a better world, right? So it's a beautiful thing to add to every project, but it's not the main reason people come to her, because we want people that value inclusivity. They have that shared value, but we'd love to work on houses where it's not just because of that they're coming to work with her, right? Because then it's not always an aesthetic match. And that was kind of posing maybe some problems. It's like, she has her own voice, her own style, and we want to attract clients that align with that and also have shared values. And then additionally, we really leaned into some messaging around like, the shared emotion was like, be brave, and around bravery, and around, living your life in a way that makes you happy, giving freedom to like do the things you want to do, and living an inspired life and making bold choices, because her style was like a little bit bold, in some ways. So it's like tying all of this together in this emotion that we can tap into with our ideal client. So for everyone, super, super different. But what I want to try to do is create like, what is the thing that you're known for? And how do we like tie all of those like little things together, like what you offer, what you do, how you do it, and what you believe in what you do, So you had asked earlier, like, what are some questions I ask? And I think one of them is like, why do you do what you do? Like, why do you believe that this work is important? What inspired you? That's a huge one that gets me a lot of information. Like, what inspired you to start this business? Because every business owner has a story of why they started, why they made the jump, right? Like, whether it's, they've just always been interested and, or their mom was a designer and they learned from a young age, or, maybe they work in finance and they started doing their house and it was a creative outlet that then grew into a business. Everyone has a story. So I want to know, like, what inspired you to start this business? What do you believe is really important when it comes to your clients' home and your life? And then what do you want to be known for? At the
Mm.
end of the day, what do you want people to be like, oh, I know that designer, they do XYZ. That, this is the type of stuff they do. What's that one liner? Um, and then, like, what do you offer? Like, is it quality interior design with an exceptional process? Is it, a coastal eclectic signature look? Is it, everyone offers something a little bit different. So how do we drill down in the most concise way to like what you offer?
Mm. So, first of all, wow. Okay. Like, I love everything you said. I'm just like sitting here
There's
going, this
a-
is amazing. um, the thing about it is that this is, in the first year of podcasting, of doing this show, um, I would have been like, oh my goodness, this is all new, 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 right?
Mm,
In the seventh year, what I love is that it reinforces the dozens of other designers and experts
yes.
that have been through the process or consultants that teach through the process. So I love all of that, but I always know there is a way to hear it differently. And there's
Mhm.
a way that opens up, that little neuro pathway that has
Yeah.
just remained closed. And so I say all that because Renee, at this point, if someone is a avid, dedicated listener to the podcast, if they are out there and they're listening and they still are resisting calling out a specific superpower and any one of these brands pillars, I got to question how many shows have they listened to, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Okay. But I still do think believing it and hearing it and knowing it, there are still designers out there. They're like, I can't
Mhm.
niche that small. I can't do that
Yeah.
little.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, in the beginning, like what I'm saying in the beginning of the show was like, we were like, wait, go that small. And I knew it because I did it with the darn podcast. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm like, here we
It's
are. There's
scary.
80,000 of you. Let's go find you. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, do you still find when you work with clients that they don't know how to find their superpower, or they do, but they're like, I can't just use that in my messaging, in my copy, because it will make other people or most people getting it at this point in the industry.
I think you're spot on with the first thing. I think it's really scary. And you said it a little bit too, but I speak for myself. When I first started this business, I was like, I could work with all creative business owners. I could do, I can do this for anybody. And I talked to a couple people and I was like, I really would love to work with just interior designers because A, I love interior design, and B, female entrepreneurs all the way, right? Like, I love working with other female entrepreneurs that family focused. I love that. But I was so scared.
Mm,
It was a scary decision. I felt that like resistance of like, but what about all those other people that now won't want me because I'm
mhm,
saying I'm only this thing? And I can say for me personally, it's only opened up so many opportunities. It's made my ideal clients find me easier. It's made opportunities, easier to find, partners easier to find. I get emails all the time from people that are like, "Hey, I also only work with interior designers. Like, let's chat, let's see if we can collaborate."
yes,
Um,
yes.
so I think it's made things a lot easier. And I've seen that over and over again with my clients. So I do think it can be really scary. But I think the key is that the idea of what a niche is evolving, right? I see a lot of people saying, I cater to busy professional families.
Mm,
you know how can we get more specific than that, and how do we focus in on a belief and a value system and what we have to offer more than just their situation? So
mm,
when you're looking at branding, there is demographics and then there's psychographics, right? Your demographics are going to be oh, they're in their 40s, they have kids, they have a dog, they live in this neighborhood. It's all of the like facts about their situation. The psychographics are going to be, what does this person believe? Where do they shop? What's important to them? Like when you think about price and value, it's different for everybody else, right? Like personally, I choose to not shop at Walmart for the most part. I would rather go to Target. If somebody tells me you're going to spend more money, I don't care. I don't care. I'm going to go to Target anyway because it's a better match for what I value, right? Like just the shopping experience, the things they have there, it's a better match for me, and I'm happy to pay more money for it.
Mm.
You know, and I feel like that's every ideal client has a different way of like determining value. And so we need to like make sure that we're speaking to that on like the psychographic level. So with that, it's like people who potentially shop at Walmart are going there because it's the cheapest and that's what they value. And that
Mm.
is the marketing, right? Like we are cheaper than everybody else. Come
Right.
here if that's what you care about. Target, all about design, right? Like design
Mm.
for less. That's the whole thing. And people who go there care about that. We need to try to speak to our clients, not in a like, just what's your life situation, but a little bit deeper into like, what makes a home for you,
Mm.
right? Like, how do I speak to like, what should your home feel like? And what do you want your like design experience to be? And so I have a, I guess this is kind of a recent example. I have a client who, two sisters, they own a business. They are at that place where they've been in business for a while and they're kind of like, oh, we just don't really know what's next for us. We want to build a team, but we're just not really sure like what direction to go in. And after really talking to them, what I started to understand was that they grew up in a very, very, very creative household. Everyone in their family was really creative and they grew up with this wonderful way of viewing the world, from like an artistic lens, a design lens that really shaped how they experienced the world and the jobs that they eventually found themselves in. And, they talked about how like their ideal client is someone who appreciates art and loves color and isn't afraid to take risks. And they're not looking to design a house that looks like everybody else's. They want something really unique and bespoke. And, so like when we start to put this stuff together, one of the things that we came up with was that what they really do is that they design homes that give their clients the opportunity to raise their family in that creative space. That they
Mm.
understand that the environment that they've created for their family has an impact on them and their children and future generations. And that those people understand that by working with a quality and talented interior designer, they're now crafting their whole family legacy, right?
Wow.
How many interior designers have told you, oh, my grandma's house was so
Right.
incredible. Every time I'd go to my grandma's house, I was so inspired. That's what really got me into interior design.
Right.
And so now it's like when they can start to understand that what they have that's really special, this family bond between them, that they then work with their clients to create this home that fosters a creative relationship with the world for their children. When we can start to drill down into that and get really concise about the messaging, it starts to pave a path forward where you can
Mm.
really imagine, like, if they were to write a book, exactly what it would be
Mm.
about, right?
Right.
Or if
Right.
they were going to do even a shop, what type of products would we fill that shop with? It's things that are for like a forever home, that inspire creative living, that we can really start to understand like how we'd apply this thinking to all these other facets of a potential business and
Mm.
different revenue streams or whatever. And so it's not just about like busy families or creative families. It's like, what do these people that we want to work with really value, that we also value, that we can speak to them on that level?
Mm.
And and help sell them something beyond just products, but a way of living that they're wanting, they're looking for.
It's compelling information because as you describe it, I can visualize it when you talk
Mhm.
about, these sisters that grew up and understood that art and creativity was valued and appreciated and
Mhm.
encouraged. You could have you could be the parents of children, and you could put them all to bed at night, and then the two of you have a glass of wine and you finger through art books. Or you can have an environment that encourages your kids to understand and live your,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
kind of like us. Both of our daughters played softball.
Hmm.
Well, because that's what me and Minnie like to do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, he
Yeah.
was a baseball coach and coached all the way to college level, and I was always an athlete. And so, yeah, we didn't do art on Saturdays and go to museums. We went to the
Hmm.
park, and now we've got the grandchildren at 7, 5, and 3, and that's
Yeah.
what he does. He goes over with the baseball bat and the
Yeah.
glove,
Yeah.
right? And so you're just taking that, to the next level. And I love the clarity of the demographics. Yes, we want that certain demographic. We
Hmm.
want that too busy,
Yep.
that busy two career couple with 16 kids and 12 dogs, right? But
Yeah.
are they also then the people that also care about sustainability?
Yep.
Are they also the people that care about, like, we want our house to be
Hmm.
the showplace of the neighborhood? Are
Totally.
they the people that they're like, make this house look like us? Like, if we have to sell this house, we have to strip it bare because
Yes.
it looks so much like us.
Yes.
The realtor is like going to shoot us, right?
What do
Right.
they really
Right.
value? And how do
Right.
I put that forward to say, this is what we're great at? And then
Yeah.
we're attracting those people because they're coming across us and saying, this is exactly what I'm looking for, you know?
Yes. Yeah.
Um, if you're interested, I have one more example of just one that I've done in the last couple weeks is a client who comes from a finance background. Okay, this all comes out over like questions, right? She
Right.
comes from a finance background, super talented. She's got a beautiful brand. I get into like looking at some different pieces. She's struggling to be profitable, feeling really
Mm.
burnt out. She's working too many hours, and she's coming to me because she's like, what's my problem? Like,
Mm.
she really loves her clients. So there's definitely something that's going on, right?
Yeah.
We get into it. We realize the pricing's a little low. Okay.
Mm.
So that's obviously one key factor. Pricing's a little low. And also we learn that, well, her favorite projects are remodels, right? Like gut remodels. She's like, I want to remodel it. I love the problem solving. I love getting into it. Not every designer loves that. She is all about it. She's like, I love, love, love solving all the little stuff, breaking open a wall and seeing what we find. Um, and then, you go a little bit further and she talks about how she just loves old houses. She loves old homes. And me too. I totally love old homes. And then a little bit later, I start to realize, oh, the old homes you're talking about are different than what I'm talking about. I love an old Cape Cod home in Maine. You're talking about a dilapidated, rundown, tiny home on a great street. You love crappy old homes. So that was like this really funny, like, I started to realize after talking to her, like, this is something different. This is an opportunity. When I start to put those pieces together, she has a finance background. She works with a lot of people from the finance industry, right? Because that's her network. They get each other. They speak a lot of the same language. And now we can start to really sell people on, hey, work with us. Like, we'll help you take an old, tiny, crappy house, turn it into something as good as a custom home or better. We'll make your money go further because we can do more with this money by investing in a, smaller, crappy home that we can make incredible. I can manage the whole process. I'll take care of everything. We raise her prices, but still keep it slightly below industry standard, right? She's going to be making way more money. She's going to be a lot happier, but
Right.
we're still positioning her to be like, to appeal to that client who's a little bit price conscious, right? Like,
Mm.
I want someone to come to her and choose her because they feel like she gets me, she understands my mindset, and this is a smart investment. What a
Right.
great investment. I'm getting a killer deal. What a value. And now all of a sudden I'm making this a no-brainer for her client, but I'm still going to be charging more and finding people that will pay more to do what she wants to do.
Right.
Right?
It's if I'm hearing you properly, the twist in there is that her ideal client is understanding that their property that with the house on it is worth 200,000, and by the time she's done it's
Mhm.
going to be worth the 350,000 that all the other houses on the street are worth.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
see, that's a little safety valve that
Mhm.
finance person wants to know. If I invest in
Exactly.
the yeah.
Mhm. But
Yeah,
I
yeah.
would want to make sure with that messaging, I wouldn't go paint her website with "We love old homes," right? Because
Right.
that would maybe send the wrong message.
It does.
It's
You're right.
not
Old
about
home.
that.
Yeah.
It's about the like, we are great at partnering with you, that we, can help you work with your budget, or we're okay giving some of that messaging because that's the person we're trying to talk to. So it's
Yeah.
all about aligning all of this stuff and not trying to say there's this one elusive ideal client out there that every interior designer wants to get, right? Everybody wants this person with the big budget, and there's not one person. There's a perfect person for every designer. And we need to really drill down into like, what's your person, and how do you craft your business to be right in between them and you, to serve both you and them, and like all the different facets.
Very cool. I love it. So
Yeah,
good.
it's very
So
fun.
good. And then the other thing, just, to put the icing on the cake is
Mhm.
this is a lot of conversation. We actually devolved into a lot of conversation about branding, but
Yeah.
you're doing the business part of it.
Yeah.
That's the real,
Hmm.
we have our experts in the industry that lean strictly into the branding that also are not necessarily going to walk us through the strategic business
Hmm.
side of it. But that
Hmm.
is really your main superpower there. Like you have a deep, in depth, obviously, understanding of branding. And to your one point that you made, in order to help somebody with their business strategy, you have to understand their goals and their dreams and all of that. And that all comes
Hmm.
from who they are, who they serve, and what makes them light up in the day, right?
Yep, exactly.
I love it. I love it. It's so good. It's so interesting. So tell us, how do people work with you? How do they reach you? How do they learn more about you, Renee?
Um, Follow us on Instagram. So at with underscore tandem on Instagram. And then our website is with-tandem.com. We love anytime, like when we have followers, I answer all the DMs myself. So when people have questions or, want to reach out and kind of get more info about anything, I am one of those people that believes that the more you give for free, the more it helps your business. So I love doing discovery calls. I'm always happy to throw out as many tips and stuff as I can anytime I chat with somebody, because that's the most fun part of my job. So I'm always just like, you know, I love just getting into all of this stuff. So definitely follow us on Instagram. You know, inquire to see if we might even be a fit to work together. We love doing discovery calls, even if it's not a good fit.
Mhm.
I love just connecting with designers and, growing the list of people that I get to know. And, this industry is really small, even though it's big. And
Yeah.
it's nice to feel like you have a lot of friends out there, that you're making connections, and everyone's out there kind of helping each other, looking out for each other. And, I'm always got stuff where I'm like, oh, I have this one client that should talk to this other client, or, oh, I have this person who reached out to me, and I have an interior designer in Houston that I could recommend them to, or
That's
whatever. So
awesome. That's
yeah.
awesome. I love that. I love that so much. I
Yeah.
can't tell you how much I appreciate all your insights today. So super cool. Thank you for being with me, Renee. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah. My pleasure. It was amazing.
So, I want to share with you that I've had many conversations and I've worked with many designers and business owners who've experienced this plateau in their business. Maybe they're burnt out, like legitimately burnt out. And legitimately burnt out is a serious thing, right? But often they just don't have the spark that they had for their business back from when they decided to start their business in the first place. And this can happen in your first year, your 20 year. It really doesn't matter. Sometimes you're just feeling overworked, or, maybe you're feeling that you're not earning what you should be at this point. Maybe you're looking for that next new challenge. Maybe you feel very good about what you've done and where you've come from and what you've created. But it's like, what's next, right? And sometimes you just don't even know what you want for your business anymore, for yourself, right? I love that Renee's first place to start when she works with business owners in this position is to ask and to uncover, what do you really want? Often we don't take the time to tune into that. We jump in, we start trying to make money. Maybe we've been doing it for years. Maybe we, think we can't stop. And we're just like, what should I do next? Or is this all there is? But what do I really want? That's a very powerful thing to sit down and do for yourself. What do you want? Do you want to work full-time and hit $1 million in gross revenue, or $3 million, or $5 million? Do you want to work less, but do you want to earn enough to support your family, right? Do you want to travel? Do you want to keep your business small? Do you want to grow a big firm, right? As Renee mentioned, what it is about your work that makes you get up in the morning, this is what you have to tap into. What is it? What do you love to do? And what are you just doing because it's there and you always have done it? It's such a cornerstone spot when you begin to think of that next thing to do, whether it's launching an e-design facet of your business, bringing in passive income in a different way, rebranding, focusing on something new, hitting an income goal, whatever it is. There has to be something, some cornerstone thing that you have attached your why to, right? And I appreciate that Renee tied all of this into defining your brand in a concrete way using her 3 pillars. So let's talk about these 3 pillars, because I want you to understand these things aren't separate from your happiness in your business or your spark, right? If you're not running your business in alignment with what you really want and who you are and the values that you have, then you are going to head out for that legitimate burnout. That's a scary place to be, and I don't want you to be there. Okay, so her first pillar is the aesthetic. It's about the visual that you do, your design style. But there was a nuance in here that Renee talked about. It's the nuance is in how you communicate that to others. That's what she discusses as the important part. It's where our messaging and our website and our portfolio all come together to set this visual of who we are and what do we do. Second pillar runs a little deeper. This is where the superpower comes into play. It's that thing that you want people to say, oh, that's what you're looking for. You need to go call so-and-so. And I want to say, do you remember way back in the beginning of the show, I think it might have been the first time Nicole Heimer of Glory and Brand was on the show. She said a very similar line to us. She said, fill in the blank. Oh, Sally Smith, she's the interior designer who? She's the interior designer that. Okay? Fill that in for yourself. I can tell you when Nicole said that on the show, I took it to heart. And after that interview, I wrote down on a piece of paper, a well-designed business. Oh, that's the podcast where the conversations are real but fun. The information matters to business owners. And it's the podcast where designers who are serious about being profitable go to for advice. That is written right down on the wall in front of me. And that's because of Nicole. So I had an idea of what I was doing, but she said, fill in the blank. And I did it. So how do you fill in the blank for your business? Renee and Nicole both encourage you to take some time with that. Okay. And Renee made the distinction that happened exactly like to me, that you aren't always already known for it, but it's what you want to be known for. It's what you intend to be known for. And just like for me, way back in that first year, it becomes the guiding principle of everything that I do. And that's, I think, the secret sauce that Renee is talking about here. It's when you follow these 3 pillars, if you get clarity on these 3 pillars, then everything you do, every project you take, every type of Instagram post that you do, you start to go and say, oh, does that answer that question? This is the interior designer who, right? So do you get it? All right. Now, the thing is that when we get to this 3rd pillar, it goes even deeper. It goes to the intangible. It goes to the feelings that you are creating for your clients, Renee said. It goes to the joy you're bringing to their lives. The way that you do what you do helps them live out their own values and their goals or their ideals. And I want you to sit with that for a minute because it matters. We all know that design is a luxury, but that doesn't mean it's not important, right? You're not just picking out pretty furniture and creating a photo opportunity for clients. This is their home. This is the space where they are going to make memories, whether that's with kids and grandkids running in and out, or time with friends hosting holiday parties or small parties, whatever it is. Maybe it's a space for them to be there, to be present and meditate. You're bringing them more than a pretty picture. You aren't Pinterest. You're a creative. And you are creating something real for your clients, something that will touch their lives every single day. Might not be brain surgery. It might not be life-saving, but it is life-altering. And at least it can be. Okay? So think about this intangible. Connect to it. Right? I think about designers who bring their own values into their design businesses. Remember Cheryl Janis all the way back from the beginning, the first 2 or 3 months of the show. She used to design spaces for boutique medical offices and facilities because she'd experienced accident, and she realized how stark and devoid of warmth everywhere she went for care was, and it impacted her ability to get well. Right? We also have Phoebe Aldry on the show, who niched down to biophilic design because she was passionate about creating homes that connected people to nature. So what you do can and does make a difference. And turning into that, leaning into that, makes a difference in the success of your business. Okay? One more thing I want to highlight that Renee said is that there isn't just one ideal client out there. There's a client for everyone. I really believe that this is true. And I believe that when you've done your work, the work that Renee is talking about here, and you have defined these pillars for yourself, and you have focused on centering your brand on what you are passionate about and what you value. And then when all of that happens, you're not competing with anybody else because no one else can do it the way you can do it. You aren't feeling lost in your business because you are in your authentic self. And I know that's a ridiculously overused phrase, but sometimes it just is the one that fits, okay? Because when you do all this, you aren't always asking yourself, what's next? Because you're in it, right? Because you have created a well-designed business. Right? I love it. Thank you so much, Renee, for joining us today. Thank you for, bringing these points out again to us. I love that they align with every expert we've ever had on the show talking about these things. And sometimes we just need to hear it a different way. You never know which voice is going to unlock that little gear shift for you. I hope you had your aha moment today. So thank you so much for joining me today. I do appreciate that you show up. You know that I do. I hope that you're planning to be with me in November in Orlando for LuAnn Live. Go to LuAnnLive.com to learn all about the event. We've got so much happening for you. Think about this. I've got Cheryl Luckett and Bria Hamill going to be talking about licensing deals, the hows, the whys, the wheres, the what do I need to know. Then I've got Nicole White and Rachel Bozick talking about branding, talking about exactly what we talked about today, how to uncover your you and your superpower. We've got, who else? We've got Brad Levitt and Michelle Wiebe talking about the designer-builder collaboration. We've got Katie McDonald, who's going to be talking about self-care and why it's not selfish to do self-care. We want to avoid burnout. We want to avoid that place where we don't know why we're doing anything. Oh my goodness. Go to LuAnnLive.com and see all of the things that we've got lined up. I can't wait to see you. Decide to be excellent. Thank you for joining me today. This podcast is a production of LuAnn Nigara, Inc. If you want to know more about me, my books, or LuAnn University, go to LuAnnNigara.com. And if you are interested in having WindowWorks help you with your next window treatment or awning project in the New York, New Jersey metro area, go to WindowWorksNJ.com to learn more. Have an excellent day.